You come back home from the gym. You had a great session. You enjoyed it, released some dopamine, and now it's time to take a shower, prepare your meal, and sit down to eat. As you're doing this, you have the wonderful idea of grabbing your phone and opening Instagram. Or maybe TikTok, to each their own. As you open either app, it hits you. Slim waistlines, shredded abs, massive shoulders, perfect V-taper, round butts, thick legs, perfect lining, smiling faces seemingly untouched by struggle. And so, automatically, you start comparing yourself, and the feeling of pride you had moments ago from finishing your workout, it starts to go away, and it's replaced by this feeling of inadequacy. Start asking yourself, why do I not look like these people? Do I even look like I train? Is it all worth it? Am I not doing enough? And if you use social media on a daily basis, this is not a one-time thing, it's like a cycle. If this cycle of self-doubt is familiar to you, then let me tell you, you're not alone. Millions of social media users across all platforms experience on a daily basis. It goes way beyond personal struggles. It is a massive phenomenon rooted in the effects of social media in the human psychology. It is a phenomenon that distorts our perceptions of what the average is, of what the ideal physique is, of what fitness is, and it also distorts your self-worth. It's a phenomenon that you've probably heard of if you clicked on this video. It's called body dysmorphia, and it sucks. It just completely blocks out your ability to ever feel satisfied with your body, no matter what you do. You could be doing everything right. You could be having a perfect meal plan that you never cheat on. You could be working your ass off in the gym 4 or 5 times a week. You can even show results and achieve something close to your goals, and still not enough. There's that voice in your head that's like, nah, you suck, bro. Not enough. Look at these people. They're all doing better than you. So yeah, it's not great. It's like this endless cycle of dissatisfaction and self-doubt that originates from a warped sense of what reality is. But even if you're aware that it's body dysmorphia and you take it for what it is, it can still happen to you. So it begs the question, why does it keep happening and how can we stop it? Well, first things first. To answer these questions, we must understand one very important fact. As human beings, our brains are not built for the way social media works today. Let me explain real quick. Social validation and approval are needs that are deeply ingrained in our human psychology. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense because acceptance and belonging to a community were crucial to our survival. But yeah, what I was trying to say is that maybe you would get 1 or 2 dudes that were like, yeah, I want to look that big, I want to be an absolute unit, but back then, it was far from normalized. Fast forward to 2024, and the idea of what's achievable and the perception of what a good physique is has changed completely, especially amongst young men. Now, instead of the lean, more natural physiques like Hugh Jackman or Brad Pitt, you ask the average young guy today who they want to look like, and they'll reference something closer to a bodybuilder. Maybe not a bodybuilder, but like a big influencer like Sam Sulek, Larry Wills, one of the Trent twins. And even in the case that they're going for a leaner and healthier physique, they'll probably reference something extreme like your usual Young LA or Gymshark influencer. And hey, if that's your personal fitness goal, I'm nobody to tell you that you can't do that. If that's what you want to pursue, all power to you. The problem arises when people start to believe that these kinds of physiques can be achieved with lifting hard and getting your macros in. It doesn't work like that. For starters, let's get the obvious out of the way. Most of these influencers are lying to you. They're not natty. Claiming 100% natural whilst being on poisonous amounts of gear has become way too normalized of a strategy to pull numbers on social media. By doing this, usually the goal is to sell things that do not work as advertised to an impressionable audience. That being said, another point that is less evident and less spoken about is that unless you want to make a living out of your physique and become a bodybuilder, even if you're doing it naturally, this kind of physique maybe is not the one you should be pursuing. That's because most of the time they are far from healthy. When it comes to having excessive amounts of excessive amounts of muscle mass, or if you're looking to be extremely lean, let's talk about the first one first. You have to remember, mass is mass. And when you have an excessive amount of muscle mass in your body, it puts you in an increased cardiovascular risk. You start to struggle with breathing, and don't forget, you have to eat a crazy amount of calories. And if you're eating a lot, chances are that some of the time, or maybe most of the time, what you're eating is not gonna be great for you, because eating clean and eating a lot, it becomes very inconvenient in your life. Now, on the flip side, too low of a body fat percentage is often not that sustainable, and it makes you feel like shit. It can lower your testosterone, it puts you on a higher risk of injury, it weakens your immune system, and so on and so forth. The thing is, for most of human history, these communities and social circles were small, much smaller than what they are today. I'm talking about villages, towns. If you go further back, hunter-gatherer societies, families, friends, maybe neighbors, you get the point. This means, of course, that any sort of social feedback came in the form of direct and immediate interactions like smiles, nods, conversations, etc. So our brains evolved in a way wired to seek approval from a manageable and close-knit community. Introduce social media into the equation, and it's not a manageable close-knit community at all. Suddenly, we are thrust into a world where our community is millions and millions of strangers. And now your brain is supposed to respond to all these overwhelming amounts of feedback that far exceeds the capacity that it's designed to process. Our ancestors would have never fathomed. And it gets more complicated than that, because an overwhelming amount of social feedback means an overwhelming amount of opportunities for you to compare yourself to others. This brings me to one of the key points in the video, the social comparison theory. It was first coined and developed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. The social comparison theory proposes that people have a natural drive to compare themselves to others, measuring our own abilities, opinions, and achievements in comparison to that of others. We do this, of course, in order to determine we're good enough, or if our opinions are correct, and to set a benchmark of what we aim to achieve. This is known as the level of aspiration. In other words, it is an attempt to define the self and assess where you stand according to your own sets of values and standards. This assessment heavily depends on the group to which you're comparing yourself to. In a normal scenario, these comparisons would be limited to a handful of people, such as family, friends, neighbors, and other people in your community. This will lead to natural comparisons in which you personally know the people you're comparing yourself to. You'll be aware of their strengths, their achievements, their image, their abilities, but at the same time, you would be aware of their weaknesses, imperfections, and everyday struggles. With social media, you're only getting the highlight reel. You're not comparing yourself to reality, but instead you're comparing yourself to a warped and carefully curated version that mimics that reality. Not only that, but the pool of comparisons becomes pretty much limitless. These overwhelming numbers and curated perfection leads you to try and live up to an impossible standard, because it's no longer about comparing your progress to somebody else's. It's about comparing your unfiltered reality with their filtered perfection, and that's a losing battle. It can lead you to believe that your progress is way too slow. It can lead you to never feel satisfied with your achievements, even when you're busting ass every day trying to do everything right. Eating well, training hard, getting your sleep in. You're doing all these things, and at the same time, it's all too easy to feel like you're falling short when the algorithm is bombarding you with all these people that seem to be doing everything better, faster, sooner, and with less effort. This brings me to the next point I want to make in the video: how the algorithm amplifies the problem I'm talking about. Now, it's no longer a battle between your mind and the content you stumble upon, or the content of the people you follow. Now, there's algorithms designed by multi-million-dollar companies that prioritize posts that are more likely to grab and keep your attention. This content, of course, gravitates towards the extreme, the idealized, everything's so over the top and really in your face. As a result of this, even if you don't want it, you are constantly exposed to a distorted reality carefully engineered to keep you engaged and scrolling at the expense of yourself. Let's say, for example, you engage with a post of somebody doing a workout that you find interesting, or maybe a bodybuilder with his family. The algorithm is gonna pick up on this, but it's not gonna keep recommending you content that's wholesome and interesting. It's gonna gravitate towards the extreme. It's gonna give you the Most dramatic content, the heaviest PRs, the most extreme physiques, you get what I mean. In theory and in practice, the whole point of the algorithm is to keep you engaged constantly. Instagram wants you to stay on Instagram. TikTok wants you to keep scrolling on TikTok. YouTube does the same thing, especially now with all these shorts and stuff. It's a battle for your attention. And as I explained before, your brain ain't built for that. Instead of motivating, too much of this ends up overwhelming you, creating and amplifying feelings of inadequacy. If you see one or two idealized bodies every once in a while, then it's fine, you'll probably be okay. But if this is happening constantly on a daily basis, then your mind is gonna start believing that everyone is bigger, leaner, and better than you. Body dysmorphia takes hold of you when that happens. And it turns fitness, that's supposed to be a journey about self-improvement and health, into a source of anxiety and self-doubt. And also keep in mind, human beings are really good at adapting. And we have adapted to this algorithm. And not only have we adapted to it, we've learned from it. Now, if you still want to go for these physiques, then you do you. I'm nobody to tell you not to do it. I understand. I love the gym. I love lifting. But we have to keep in mind that influencers thrive on the idea of effortlessness. I had to switch the battery. Where was I? Right, okay, so rarely they will show you the reality behind these physiques. The brutal diets, supplement stacks, carefully placed lighting, perfect angles, editing. All of these factors are hidden, and instead you get this lifestyle that is presented as achievable, and this rewires the way we define natural progress. For the general population who want to be healthier and more comfortable with the way they look, single-digit body fat and insane amounts of muscle mass should not be considered ideal, much less normalized. Nowadays, you have this considerable number of young adults and sadly even teenagers who look at all these influencers and end up obsessed with the idea that they can look like them just by lifting a few times a week and eating more protein. Now, in the worst cases, this can end up in people being so frustrated with their physique that they hyper-focus on the gym and pretty much every other aspect of their lives falls apart. Or in an even worse case scenario, they end up using steroids without ever even approaching their full natural potential. And so here we are as a society with a massive problem, body dysmorphia, caused by the internet and social media. But how can we solve this problem? How do we break free of the cycle of comparisons and the pressure to keep up with an ideal that was never meant to be naturally achievable or sustainable in the first place? Well, we can't control social media, and we most definitely cannot change the way it works overnight. But we can control and change one thing: our personal life. The first solution is to take control of the way you engage with social media. Use the algorithm to your favor and engage with your feed in a way that changes what you are exposed to. Follow creators who show authenticity, who give actual useful advice and seek to help you out in your fitness journey. Unfollow and mute creators that do the opposite. Like and engage the kind of posts that you want to see, and ignore the ones that you don't want to see. Preferably, if you want to take it a step further, set personal boundaries for how much time you spend online. Get off the screen, focus on your fitness journey, go outside, enjoy the process, and take it for what it is. Stop scrolling and detox yourself from the brain rot caused by too much social media. Besides controlling your screen time and your social media engagement, the best thing you can do is be truthful to yourself. Understand this: social media is not real life. It's the highlight reel. It shows you a perfectly crafted lifestyle of perfect bodies and cinematic transformations that are nothing but the product of filters, editing, lighting tricks, and other stuff. Chasing after this lifestyle and comparing yourself to those who present it will rob you of your ability to enjoy the full experience of what physical fitness is. But the journey is supposed to be like. Just take it for what it is. Understand that it's okay to not be where you want to be right now. Progress takes time. It's not linear, and you're gonna have to be patient. And finally, ask yourself, why am I doing this in the first place? Do I want to take it as far as possible and become a pro bodybuilder and maybe make a living out of my physique? Or do I just want to be stronger, healthier, more confident, more attractive, and just overall the best version of myself? Set goals that align with your personal values and what you want from life. not with what the internet tells you you should want. And that's that. Thanks for watching. If you would like more videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm just starting out with this channel and it would help me a lot. Thanks again, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.